I wasn't concerned about ending up in the water myself, but if the Tenere went to the bottom, well, that would be something else entirely.
I can tell you I am very happy to be on the road again.
The previous week, I had a disastrous ride through a high altitude area near Tulkan. I dropped the Tenere 3 times, resulting in some crash damage, a can of chain lube emptying itself into one of my panniers, and a 6-hour walk to town in the middle of the night. After a stressful week in Tulkan trying to sort everything out, I was back in the game. Leaving the border town of Tulkan, I planned to follow the Ecuador-Colombia border before heading south on jungle tracks and regional roads. I didn't know it at the time, but the route I had planned would also involve a river crossing in a canoe crewed by kids. Upon reaching Macas, I will climb west into the Andes before finally arriving in Cuenca. Government websites advise against travelling within 20 kilometres of the Ecuador-Colombia border, but I'd been told by a good source in Quito that there was a large army and police presence in the area and it was safe to travel. I have to admit, I was still a little nervous. I had barely started my ride when I came upon a police roadblock. I didn't film my interaction with the cops, as this is usually frowned upon. When I saw the police car and the officers waving me down, I thought my ride was over before it had even started. They asked for my passport and where I was heading. One officer turned to me and said something along the lines of, "This isn't a tourist route," and the other lifted his arms and acted out firing a rifle, indicating the presence of armed gangs in the area. With my handful of Spanish, I asked them if it was okay to proceed. Although I was keen to ride on, if they had said no, I would have respected their advice and turned around. They resumed their discussion. There was a bit of frowning and shoulder shrugging. Then one of them turned to me and nodded and said, "Ride fast." I never expected to hear that from a police officer. I thanked them and rode on, feeling more uneasy about my choice of route. I soon arrived at the first army checkpoint of the ride. After my earlier interaction with the police, it was a little, well, anticlimactic.
Well, there's 3 blokes on the checkpoint there, and none of them could be asked getting off their phones to come and check my documents or anything else. They didn't give a shit, so through I went.
The second checkpoint was a different story.
I've just been through the second of the 2 army checkpoints, and this one was a lot more thorough. It got me to get off the bike, take my backpack off, jacket off, patted me down for weapons and asked where I was going, took my passport. But they were very friendly and yeah, happy to see me go on my way. So in this area, the border between Colombia and Ecuador is this valley. So Ecuador this side, and on the other side of the creek, that's Colombia.
G'day, mate. Even though the country was spectacular, and I hadn't seen anything or anyone that looked dodgy, I still had an underlying feeling of unease. The presence of the army checkpoints was definitely reassuring.
A little bit more altitude now, and here it's a little bit colder. Oh, look at that.
Riding along the Colombia-Ecuador border had me running out of adjectives.
Gorgeous. I just went through checkpoint number 3 outside the little pueblo of La Bonita. Yeah, not quite as thorough as the last fellas, but they did want to look inside my roll bag and backpack and stuff. No pat down this time, so they must have thought he's not carrying. Talk about the highs and lows of motorcycle touring. Last week I was lying underneath the bike in the mud having a shitful time, and today I'm riding one of the most fun tracks and most spectacular areas that I've been in all of South America. Wow, this is absolutely spectacular.
Riding tracks with thick jungle creeping in from either side was a real buzz.
Wow.
Growing up in Australia, the Amazon was a faraway place of mystery and adventure. I'm a long way from my childhood now, but riding in Ecuador's Amazon region had me giggling like a kid.
My beautiful jungle track has turned into miles and miles and miles of river stones, which is a lot less comfortable.
When rainfall is measured in metres rather than millimetres, you know you're getting some serious precipitation.
Just another walk in the rain for the kids.
The local kids must just get used to being wet all the time. Except these kids.
Wow, that is something else. Look at that. Well, I'm guessing at one stage the road just, oh yeah, kept going down here. And you can see the rest of it straight across there. So I imagine the river realigns itself quite often. That's extraordinary. What a mass of water. Spectacular. Well, that doesn't look good. Bus has got stuck, everyone's piled out. And for now, road is blocked. Tempted just to sneak down and just zip by. I think old mate's got the same idea. Close.
Ayuden a reempujar.
I'm going to sneak by, I reckon. While he's there before he, I was going to say before he starts coming back. Oh, more carnage. Bucket tyres.
Arriving in a small riverside village, my journey was about to take an interesting turn. Remember the old Ecuadorian proverb, always listen to a bloke with a machete.
Okay. This will be interesting. Figure out what happens from here. I seem to have lobbed in town at the same day as the work crew are on, because there's some heavy duty whippersnippering going on. But I've been informed by someone that the canoe that takes passengers across the river is big enough to take this bike. But he seemed to think it would be alright, so we'll trust the locals. So yeah, they're a bit light on, I reckon.
After about 15 minutes wait, a larger canoe turned up with 3 crew on board. 2 blokes who were about 16, and a girl who wasn't even half that. I wheeled the tonneau on board, and one of the blokes sat astride it and grabbed hold of the roof frame. He tried to reassure me that everything was going to be fine, but I've got to admit, I was a bit worried. I wasn't concerned about ending up in the water myself, but if the Tenere went to the bottom, well, that would be something else entirely.
Okay, I made it through. It was interesting, there was a couple of sections there. There was a girl on the front who was about 5 or something, or 6, maybe 7, who was punting us through the shallow bit, so I obviously had to take the prop out of the water because it's too shallow. But made it to the other side, and the bloke must have seen the look on my face as I'm clinging onto the bike. He's trying to tell me that, as far as I could figure out, that no, it's fine, it's really, these canoes are really stable. But he must have seen I was pretty nervous. He's like, no, tranquilo, which is the only word out of all of them that I knew for sure. So I tried to relax, and he was right, it was very stable. Okay, now I've got to get up this scrabbly path.
After the crossing, I was soon back on the skeleton-rattling Riverstone tracks.
Spectacular. Amazing. Must be a constant battle to maintain roads up here. I imagine the ground underneath is pretty saturated a lot of the time, and bits of road must slip into the substrate often. And occasionally you come across sections that have just slid down the mountain, so yeah, it's a big task, that one, road maintenance. Shit. Fuck. I need to go this way. Well, that kind of snuck up a bit. Families that hang out on the road together stay together.
After reaching Puyo and consulting my maps, it appeared that the jungle tracks were now behind me, and the rest of the journey south would be on sealed roads through more developed areas. I decided to turn west at Macas, climb up into the Andes, and return to Cuenca. Riding south through the Amazon was to be my last adventure in Ecuador. I was now heading back to Peru to explore the spectacular Huascaran National Park.
G'day everyone, Jim here. Thanks for coming along for the ride. Please give this video a like, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate your support.